We're back. This is Roger Royce of 2020 Statewide Candidates Forum. And by the way, you can be tweeting. If you're tweeting, tweet to CASC Forum, hashtag CAST Forum, and go ahead and post, especially your controversial comments about California produce. So we're here now with Pamela Swartz, who's running for State Senate. Welcome, Pamela. Glad you could join us.
Thank you. It's District 1. District 1 State Senate, just to make sure that people know where that is. And do I have a moment to explain the district a little bit, the
yeah, tell us about your
location?
Sure.
All right. So District 1 is, I think it's the largest district in California. It goes from the Oregon border on the eastern side of the Sierra, all the way down through Shasta County, down all the way down into Placer, El Dorado counties, and then into the eastern portion of Sacramento. And it goes around the entire California coastline of Tahoe, Lake Tahoe. And it includes Alpine County, which is the county that's just on the southern portion of Lake Tahoe. So it's about 55,000 square miles. It's quite large. And that is District 1.
Okay. Is Chico in your district?
No, it's not. It's a funny little carve out, actually. Butte County is a little carve out, same with Yuba County. But our district is 11 counties. If you want, I can name them all for you.
That's all right. That's a lot of counties.
Yeah, and it's expensive. It's expensive to run in more rural district because every candidate statement, you want your candidate statement in the voter guides, and each one of those costs money in each county. So if you're running, let's say, just in San Francisco, which can get you your 970 some odd thousand constituents, you're only in San Francisco County, you have one county's fees. We had 11 counties, and so our voter guide candidate statement was over $13,000 to pay for all 11 counties. It's kind of tough. I mean, so
okay.
Got to really want to do this.
All right. So, by the way, if anybody else is having technical problems, please chat me. You're coming in loud and clear through me, but some people lost audio, it looks like, but we'll get it back. So tell me about your platform. I know from your website, we haven't talked enough about healthcare today, I don't think. So maybe we'll start with that. Maybe you could give us your view on what we should be doing, what the future of California healthcare should look like.
Yes, well, I believe strongly that healthcare is a right. I don't believe that healthcare should be determined, or the ability of your ability to get healthcare should be determined on how large your pocketbook is. I think that when you pit a sick person against corporate profits, the sick person will always lose. So I believe strongly in a single payer healthcare option in California. And actually a few years ago, the state Senate did pass that resolution, and it was sent over to the state assembly, and it has sat there ever since. It was never brought to the floor. There's a lot of political stuff that's going on with that, but I would hope that that we could actually, especially during COVID, get that motion going again. And if we don't give single payer option to people, all people in California, maybe we just do it for people who are 55 years and between 55 and 65 before you qualify for Medicare, because that's when the insurance premiums tend to really skyrocket. And I think that would really help a lot of people as they're starting to prepare to go into retirement.
Okay, so I asked you about Chico because I wanted to get into some of the issues around the fires we've been having and seem to have every year in California. And I noticed from your website that that's one of your platforms is programs to reduce fire danger. Yes. What sort of programs would those be? Can you be more specific about that?
Sure, would love to. I don't know how much time we have and how much you want to hear about biomass facilities. But as I mentioned, we have 11 counties, all of which are pretty much, it's all the northeastern portion of California. 55% of our district is federal land, BLM and Bureau of Land Management, and also U.S. Forest Service. And so what ends up happening is because the federal government has been underfunding these natural resources, and therefore it's been mismanaged, our forests are now a threat to our existence here in the North State. And actually, frankly, the entire state of California. Because California, I'll answer the question in a second, but let me just tell you, our district District 1 is the true watershed of California. Our district produces and provides two-thirds of California's fresh drinking water, and also agricultural water and industrial water. Two-thirds is huge. So when our forests are on fire and we're creating all kinds of issues into the future in terms of mudslides and unstable watersheds, we are going to be negatively impacting the entire economy of California, because without water, you don't have an economy. So what we're doing right now in terms of 4 million acres that have burned in California thus far is a non-sustainable, unsustainable path. We're going to crash and literally burn. So our economy relies upon the health of our forests in our district. So specifically to address wildfire, obviously climate change is a large factor. When we have 5-year droughts, we have beetle infestation, a lot of dead trees, and then those trees are ripe for these huge torch-offs with fire. So we need to also be clearing out the biomass, the understory, the unhealthy trees in our forests. Many people believe that our forests, when you look out the window when you're driving up to Tahoe or somewhere, you see all these forests and you think, oh, those are nice forests. But most of those forests are actually unhealthy. They're called dog hair forests. When you can't see through the trees and they're all these little tiny little seedlings and little scrappy things are on the bottom part of the forest floor, that's all ladder fuel. So we need to get rid of that. And the best way to get rid of that, in my belief, is to remove it physically. Either you masticate it on site, or you cut it down and then you chip it, put those chips into the back of a large semi-truck, haul it to a biomass facility, and process that to produce energy. And now it can be tied into the grid, like with PG&E, and we can get into PG&E in a minute. Or it can actually be used through gasification technique, where they actually extract the hydrogen out of the biomass, leaving biochar, and then using that hydrogen to produce hydrogen fuel. And there's a lot of research, and it's moving forward actually in California to produce hydrogen fuel semi-trucks, as well as buses to be used in more cities and things. So that's going to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions as well. I should also mention that I graduated in forestry with an emphasis in wildlife management many years ago. And I did that, I was in the field for a few years, maybe about 4 years, 5 years, and then I started my own business, which is actually a skincare company. And that was over 31 years ago. So I have, in terms of the natural wildlands, resources, watershed management, I feel like I have a really good grasp on it. Although I haven't worked in it for my profession, I definitely feel like I have a good grasp. So by reducing, real fast, by taking that biomass out of the forests, we're going to be creating healthier trees. We can bring back logging. We can bring back milling into our district again. Also, by removing that biomass, we're reducing the fire risk and fire danger for communities that are in the fire-prone areas, which causes then, of course, people's homeowners insurance not to be canceled, and actually the rates become more reasonable. So it really is a huge win. And by doing that entire process, actually, that is a carbon negative event. So we're actually going to be helping our greenhouse gas emissions by becoming aggressive in terms of our biomass facilities. And one needs to be every 50 to 100 miles in our district to be effective.
Yeah, it's amazing what the technology is doing. We've seen biomass create carbon negative energy. It's an amazing technology. And we've heard a lot about technology here today. The last speaker talked about decel technologies. But I want to move on because I noticed that you also are in favor of providing affordable housing and dealing with this massive homeless problem that we have, especially in my neighborhood. How would you do that?
It's going to get worse, I have to say, because of this COVID crisis and the fact that our federal government has not stepped in to help the people. State of California is hoping to be able to afford another $300 a month for folks that have been jobless because of the COVID crisis. So housing is very important. Again, that's a human right. When you don't have a place that's safe at night to lay your head, you cannot function. You don't have the ability to go out and get a job. You are always looking for where you're going to sleep that night, and it has to be safe. So I think, well, I know by the statistics that are out there that we have a lot of housing units that are sitting vacant. Like in San Francisco, I read this interesting article. Actually was in the San Francisco Chronicle, that there's something like 3 times as many places as homes, empty vacant homes, than there are homeless folks in San Francisco. So what I believe we need to do in the state of California, we need to become very aggressive in making sure that people who are on the verge of homelessness, in other words, they're just 1 paycheck away from not being able to pay the rent, that we help those folks out. Because it's way less expensive to keep people in their homes than it is to have them come onto the streets. In Nevada County, I was told by a woman who runs the Hospitality House, which is an outreach program and a home, temporary shelter for the homeless. In Nevada County, it costs $40,000 a year to house a person, whereas it's about $150,000 a year when a person is homeless and they're cycling through emergency rooms and the shelters and the police and the jails. So it's much more effective financially as taxpayers that we support people that way. But specifically, Shasta County, Redding, California has 5 empty hotels. Those need to be transitioned into affordable housing units. Now with COVID, we're going to be having a lot of empty commercial office space because people are working from home. And Twitter, Facebook, Google, all those folks have been sort of making noises that they're going to keeping that model permanent, which is actually kind of good, I think, for the environment. Less travel, fewer people on the roads, less greenhouse gas emissions. But we're going to have a lot of empty buildings, commercial office space. They already have great parking. They already are geared towards ingress and egress. They have obviously plumbing to those buildings. They already have heating, air conditioning units. So let's transition those buildings into affordable housing units. And when I speak about affordable housing, I'm talking about 30% of your income goes to your housing. Many places in our state, more than 30%, if not half or more, is needed to go to housing. So I think that we really have to provide that shelter for people. Then people can get jobs. They can stay in their jobs. I think it's really important. And it's a shame that we have students that are living in their cars with their parents and trying to go to school. They can't, they're sitting outside Taco Bell and Starbucks on their free Wi-Fi trying to do their schoolwork. That is not acceptable in the richest nation on the entire planet and the richest state of this nation.
Okay, we've got just a few more minutes left, but I do want to ask you about one other thing, and that is
and then can I answer those questions?
What's that?
And then can I answer the questions from?
Okay, go for it if you'd like to take a question.
How am I different from my opponent? My opponent, I will answer in 3 ways, takes massive money from corporations. I am not bought, and I will never be sold to any corporations. So number 1, we are a grassroots and we take no corporate money. Huge difference between myself and my opponent. Number 2, I believe in science and climate change, and I will fight like hell for our district to remain healthy ecologically, environmentally, socially, and racially. We need justice on all those things. And number 3, I believe that through the fighting of all those things in terms of environmental and climate change, we will bring fantastic jobs to our district, and we will also encourage people to go to, school, whether it's a university, a 4-year university, which we don't have, by the way, in our district, which is another thing I'm going to be fighting for, but encouraging people to go to trade schools as well. And I believe that education needs to be free for the student, because you do not want to have a person who graduates with hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. That immediately puts them behind the 8 ball. So those are, I think, 3 big top things that I can say. Do I support Black Lives Matter? Absolutely, 100%.
End of story, I guess. Huh?
That's right.
Okay. So I was going to ask you about, we've only got 2 minutes left, but I was going to ask you about your education program. You seem to advocate for, I guess, free education for all. How would we pay for that?
Well, similarly, we would be paying for it the same way that we pay for the 7 wars that we're in and the corporate welfare programs that we also provide for all the rich people, all the billionaires that underpay their employees. And so their employees need to be on government assistance, like food programs for their kids, housing stipends, healthcare stipends, those kinds of things. So it's a matter of priorities and making sure that our government, when we pay our tax dollars, that money comes back to help us and does not provide corporate welfare programs, as well as creating more wars and feeding the military industrial complex. That's an overall, in terms of a national thing. Interestingly enough, when a student goes to, well, let's put this way. When a California taxpayer pays $1 towards a student's community college education, over the course of that student's lifetime, the California taxpayer receives $4.50 back in taxes. That is a hell of an investment. So education is key. So whether it's going to a formal 4-year education, whether it's becoming a physician, whether it's becoming an attorney, whether it's becoming the best iron worker so that we can build internet infrastructure in our district, we need to make sure that we have those educational opportunities available so that when those young people, or even people going back to college, choose to go back, that when they get their higher earning jobs, they will put that money right back into our economy. It is a win, win, and win. So it's inexcusable that we do not regard education as our step forward, where we can actually raise more taxes to help those people in our communities that don't have the ability to work like that.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Thank you, Pamela, for being here with us today.
It's a
I imagine
pleasure.
we could find you on Pamela Swartz for Senate. Is that your
No,
website?
our website is pamelaforsenate.com, F-O-R, pamelaforsenate.com. I can put it in the chat if that's okay.
Yep.
And also, if people have questions, please, there's a way that you can contact us off the website. I answer all of those emails, and if you have specific questions and you like to chat, I'm more than happy to do that as well. Our current incumbent, the guy I'm running against, does not show up to any forums. I suspect that he didn't respond here. We've had an opportunity to have 8 of them, and he doesn't respond, and he doesn't show up. So I'm proud to show up for the people of the North State and all of California. And thank you so much.
All right, thank you.